All right, so as we're studying, we are studying Hebraisms. And we went through the Hebraism last time and took us all to the 8 o'clock hour almost. And now, I don't know, we'll probably take the whole night, I don't know, we'll see, for this one. Because this one's pretty extensive. And it has a theme that goes all through the entire Bible. It has application, it has... it relates to God, it relates to Revelation, it relates to everything. And we're still in Genesis, we're in chapter 1. And what you start realizing when you're in Genesis chapter 1 is there's a bunch of Hebraisms. And so the second one that we're gonna kind of focus in on is this one. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light and that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness, which is a metaphor, he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. So this is a literal 6-day creation, and so that's legitimate, and that's what's happening. I'm a young earther, but there's a 6-day creation, but it has metaphorical, spiritual stamping all through it. And so what God did is when he created, and the reason he creates in 6 days, because he could create instantaneously if he wanted, is to set a pattern, is to set some type of teaching instruction that you are going to get from how he created things. In fact, what you're going to learn is you're going to learn the concept of separation. The concept of why things need to be separated, why things need to be changed, and put in the right categories. So let's just start first then with the first Hebraism. The Hebraism that you're looking at is light versus darkness, okay? That is the theme that's going to start from Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation. In fact, it will culminate in the book of Revelation where the city of New Jerusalem has no darkness. And so what you start realizing is, okay, so God then creates this. So then the first question then is, if the sun and the moon are not created, where is the light coming from? Did he create a separate light? Where? That's the first question you have to, that Moses is trying to get you to understand. If the sun and the moon, which are the main light sources for the planet, are not created yet, then where is the light source coming from? It's coming from God, obviously. Okay, so it's coming from God, but what kind of light is it? Is it just, and you have, the answer to that will then lend itself to the rest of the Bible as a theme. So the Hebraism is trying to tell you that this light is not coming from a natural source. It is coming from God himself. But this light is very different, okay? Because it emanates from God, right? Now, as we talked about, the judgment that fell on the original earth because of Satan's fall has created a watery mass and darkness. So you're going in a sequential order of God creating everything ex nihilo, out of nothing, and then there's a judgment on that because of Satan's fall, and then now there's a recreation out of this watery mass, and this first creation is light on the darkness. So you come from darkness, the deep, and the watery mass, this salty abyss, and then all of a sudden God brings light to it, okay? So, as you can see, and God saw the light, and it was good. Does he say in the text that the darkness is good? No, he will say that the light is good. And then he divided it from the darkness, as you can see, and called it day, and the darkness, again, called night. Okay, so then here's the question, and I think you have to wrestle with this, is why is he leaving an element of judgment in the recreation of the earth for Adam and Eve and humans? Why is he leaving an element of judgment? Because as you can see, that the darkness we saw last week, darkness is real, okay? It's with the absence of light, but it's also a metaphor for evil, sin, ignorance, judgment, calamity. Because anytime where you see darkness, it's judgment. Even on the cross, from 12 to 3, there was judgment on the Messiah himself as darkness fell on the land. So darkness is a theme of ignorance, sin, judgment, calamity. So you have to then contend with, if God is now separating the darkness from light, why is he leaving darkness in our creation? So nighttime, we have night and we have day, right? But in Hebrew, it's the night first and then the day. So the night comes first, then the day. Night first, then day. Chaos, order. Chaos, order. Right? So the Hebrew mind, we think in different terms. It's day then night. Day and the night. No. The Hebrew is night then day. That's why you have the morning star that appears right before dawn. Jesus is called the morning star, right? Okay. So you then have to ask yourself then, what is God trying to show you by leaving an element of judgment in our calendar, in our day? There's a period of time where we have no light and it's dark, okay? If you notice that the word divided in Hebrew obviously means separation. So this is what God is doing. He's separating things out, okay? Putting things in their proper category, putting things in the right boxes. This is God creating reality, okay? That's what you're watching. But in this reality, he's going to keep an element of judgment there. So the first question is, like we learned last week, you have the fall of Satan and however many angels he took with him. So you have an element of sin already in the universe, in the cosmos that he's created, right? Because he's fallen. And so we saw him that last week he profaned heaven, and we talked about that, and he's cast down. And so his environment is cursed, but the new earth that Adam and Eve are created in are going to encapsulate that as well, because he is still there. His fallen angels are still in the cosmos, and they interact with our world. They're a part of the cosmos. They're part of the unseen realm. And so we live in a physical world, but it is also a spiritual world as well. So what you're starting to realize with the division of night and day is that in this creation, there is going to be the elements of sin already in it with the fall of Satan. The origins of it are there. Obviously, Adam is going to fall and cause the collapse of the whole human race because of his sin. We know that. But what I'm wanting you to see is the reality in which God is creating encapsulates the evil that's already been introduced by the fall, if that makes sense. And he's incorporating it into our reality. So then that begs the question, why would he incorporate that into our reality? Why? Again, the question then becomes, why does he allow a tempter into the Garden of Eden? Why allow a tempter? Why even give a test? Why even put the tree there and do that? Because in your probationary period, like we talked about, there must be a test. And there must be a test of contrary choice, of free will, okay? And so incorporating into our reality is the concept of contrary choice, that we can choose to do evil. We can choose to do the good, okay? And so then the reality is what God is trying to do metaphorically in the creation, as he separates, he is trying to tell you there are things that are good and things that are bad. Okay, it's that simple. Okay? But I want you to understand, he is trying to separate them out. There's no crossing over. There's no overlap. They don't mix. The concept of divided is separated out. I am separating out darkness from light. And I'm keeping them separate categories. The problem with us as human beings is we start mixing the categories. And we start mixing these categories, and that's when we run into problems in our lives. And before you know it, your sin nature that will take over will eventually call good evil and evil good. You will reverse it. That's what a lot of humans do. They actually mix the categories, and all of a sudden, evil is now good and good is now evil. Okay? You could probably see that last night in the Trump's, his State of the Union. I mean, it's just, look, man, when you cannot cheer on, people who have lost a child, and you can't support that, and you can't support the good things because you're so politically entrenched, you have lost all your moral bearings. I'm sorry, you're on a different path. You're in a path of darkness, and you can. When there's good things, you got to put your political things aside and say, yes, that's a good thing. We support people, that have lost people, and that's a tragedy. And we sit there with our hands crossed. Well, that's a political enemy, so I'm not going to cheer for that which is good. What fool in any government whatsoever does not want to cheer on when we cut wasting people's money and tax dollars? Who wouldn't support that? I don't care if you're in Lebanon. I don't care if you're in America. Hey, we don't want to waste money and give gender studies to Somali or whatever, or whatever the thing was, right? It was ridiculous. Did you hear some of the things? What we are paying for? It just blew my mind. But they can't even cheer that on, and it's like, well, you really want the LGBT movement to be all over the planet? That's what you want? Because that's evil. That's darkness, right? And all the other stuff. It's crazy. I'm just shocked by some of the responses of that. Okay. So what you then have is a theme that starts. This is the theme. It is a literal creation, no doubt about it, but God is using what he's doing as a metaphor to the reality in which we live in. We live in a place where there is light and darkness. We talked last week about demonology. We talked about fallen angels. It's no mistake that the high levels of demonic activity happen at nighttime. Okay? Some of the Hebrew words that are for demons, and that's why the English translations doesn't do justice to what's going on in the Hebrew. But like some of the translations will be night creature. And it doesn't get translated in your English like that. But there are demons that have animal-like features, or they're called night creatures. And why are they called night creatures? Why are they called familiar spirits and things? Because you don't pick that up in English. It's because their activities are during the darkness. Their activities are at night. They're in the realm of darkness. Okay, so this is an interesting thing, and I've talked to a lot of people that have been demonized, and talked to a lot of people that have been in the occult and witchcraft and different things. What the witching hour is? It's 3 a.m. in the morning, right? That's very common among pagans, Satanists, and stuff like that to do activities at 3 a.m. in the morning. A lot of people who are struggling or being, harassed or whatever, sometimes they wake up at 3 in the morning. They can't go back to sleep. And 3 a.m. is according to Satanists, is the opposite time and when Jesus was crucified or died on the cross at 3 p.m. So they take the opposite. And the satanic activity happens at 3 a.m. at night, in opposition to what Messiah did at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on that Friday on the cross. So it doesn't shock us that they do that. It doesn't shock us that Halloween is one of their biggest activities, and for witches and Satanists and all kinds of stuff. But we have this old saying here in America: nothing good happens after midnight, right? It's true. That's when a lot of bad stuff starts happening at night. And again, You talk to Satanists and you talk to pagans or witches, whatever, and they'll tell you, people that have come to faith after that a lot of their activities that they did and occultic activity were at night. That makes sense, okay? That makes sense because it's part of the darkness. So what God is trying to tell you is this is how I'm going to create reality. But I want it separated. And I'm showing you that there is supposed to be a separation. I don't want you part of this darkness. I want you part of the light. Now notice that we said the light is coming from him. Okay, so interesting way of looking at this is the rabbis, because they were studying Hebraisms, took this Hebraism and took it to mean that this light is the Messiah's light. Okay, and they attached it to Isaiah 60. And this is a messianic passage from Isaiah. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and deep darkness the people. Again, the metaphor, but also pointing back to creation, right? So the darkness of the deep, but the people are in darkness, is what it's trying to say. But the Lord will arise over you, and the glory will be seen upon you. So notice that these are Jewish parallelisms. So if you go back to arise and shine for your light has come, the parallel is the light is a parallel, the glory of the Lord. So now I have my answer, and that's what every Hebrew rabbi understood too, that this light is the glory of the Lord that's shining on the face of the deep, that's shining on the darkness. It's not a natural light, it's the Shekinah. But this Shekinah light, they say, is the messianic light because he will come one day. The Lord will arise over you and the glory will be seen upon you. Okay, when Jesus returns, he will return in what? Glory, right? The light, his light, the Shekinah. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, right? So we know that. They would draw the Gentiles to himself. And the kings to the brightness of your rising. Again, another Jewish parallelism. So the Gentiles and these kings, not just the Jewish nation, but the Gentiles of all the world and their kings would also come to this light. So what you saw with the rabbis understanding that this was a Hebraism, if you want to call it, but a metaphor that this light that's coming upon the creation is the Messiah's light. That's how they associated the two together, okay? Let's continue on. This is Isaiah 60, a continuation of the passage in 19 through 20. The sun shall no longer be your light by day, nor the brightness shall the moon give you light to you. But the Lord will be to you an everlasting light, and your God your glory. The sun shall no longer go down, nor shall your moon withdraw itself, for the Lord will be an everlasting light, and the days of your mourning shall be ended. So it's talking to Israel, talking that one day the Shekinah will arise on you, but then this Shekinah is related to the Messiah, okay? It's related to him, and and because of his light, you won't need natural light. You won't need the sun. You won't need the moon. That sounds familiar to me, because when I read Isaiah 60 and then I read Revelation 21 and 22, it tells me in New Jerusalem there is no need for the sun or the moon, because the light of God gives it light. So here you go. Here you have that this light then eventually will expel all darkness. There will not be any more darkness. That's the future hope. That this light from God will expel all the darkness. But right now, we live with the darkness. It's in our reality. But there's coming a day when it won't be in our reality anymore. Okay. So Malachi then picks up the theme. And like I said, it's carried all through the Old Testament and then into the New. For behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, and all the proud, yes, all who do wickedly will stumble. And the day which is coming shall burn them up, says the Lord of hosts, that will leave them neither root nor branch. But to you who fear my name, the Son of righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings. A very popular passage of the Son of righteousness. We know that's the Messiah. But what it is trying to say, that one day the day will dawn. What did I say about the Hebrew understanding of day and night? It's night and then day, right? Not day and night. It's night then day. So the picture of reality is that you're going through the night in prophetic history. We're actually in the night right now. Okay, we're between the first and second coming. Jesus said night is coming when no one can work. He was referring to the time between the first and second coming. So, but once the night is over, what happens is the day star appears, Venus. And the day star signals that a new day is starting to come. A new day is getting ready to dawn. And so that is a picture of Messiah then bringing in the new day. And that new day, there will be no more night. The night is over. That's the idea of the theme of the dawning of the Messiah, right? Okay. So then we jump into the Gospels. And John picks up the theme. And John's picking up in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So what is he doing? He's paralleling Genesis. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and that light was what? The light of men. Now we have another understanding about light. It is associated to the Messiah, no doubt about that, but it's a revelation to men too, because light shines in the darkness, and it exposes what's in the darkness. So the concept then is Messiah then brings this light to men. And he shines the light on the darkness. And so the concept of revelation is now being put in here. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not comprehend it. Okay? Darkness, because it's evil and wicked and does the opposite of what God does, doesn't understand it. This revelation has to come from God. He has to be the one who reveals it. Otherwise, we can't on our own get this. We'll be in darkness if he doesn't reveal these things to us. So light is also a metaphor for revelation. And it's the Messiah that brings the revelation, okay? So it brings the truth is what I'm talking about. So what God is saying is, look, I'm going to separate the two realities. There's darkness and there's light, and it's going to be my revelation that explains to you that which is good, that which is righteous, that which is holy. It is coming from me. I'm the one who tells you what it is, and the boundaries are set by me, no one else. Humans do not get to create what they think is dark and what they think is light. That's not their prerogative. God tells it. He reveals it. And so obviously Messiah is going to be the light to men, okay? And he's going to bring that revelation. Now, we pick up the story in a couple of chapters later of Messiah dealing with Nicodemus. And Nicodemus is stumbling through things, and he's having a hard time about this, right? But talks to Nicodemus about being born again. And look, he's stumbling through this because in the Jewish mindset, there were 6 ways of being born again. And one was like, being a ruler of a synagogue. One was being married. It was all kinds of different things. So they had a concept of being born again, but it wasn't biblical. And so Jesus, is trying to tell them, you got to be born of the Spirit. So you know the story, but that's not what I want to focus in. I want to focus on what Jesus said about light and darkness, or about revelation. Okay? So then in his continuation in his speech to Nicodemus, he goes, and this is the condemnation, Nicodemus, that light or revelation or truth has come into the world. Obviously, that can be the Messiah himself or the words he's given. It's interchangeable, okay? And men love darkness rather than light. Why? Why do men love darkness rather than light? Because their deeds were evil. So what ends up happening is, go back to Genesis, as the light comes from God, which is this Shekinah glory, and shines on the darkness and reveals that in the darkness is a watery mask. It reveals what's there, okay? So the same is true when God gives his revelation to man. It reveals that which needs to be uncovered. It reveals the darkness. It reveals the sin, that which misses the mark. It reveals all of that. For everyone practicing evil hates the light, or truth, or revelation that comes from God, and does not come to the light. So in this reality then in which God is given, people have a choice. When God gives his revelation out, which is clearly seen from him, of right and wrong, how to be saved, whatever the issue is. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? You know, everyone has problems with that apparently now. There's only two genders, right? He starts defining that. If they do not accept it, the reason they don't accept it is because they love darkness. And they won't come because he's telling them, this is how reality is. You either bend to my reality and bend a knee to it, or you're going to be in darkness. And obviously there's condemnation in that and everything else. But the idea is most people, because of their free will, are going to choose the darkness because they don't want their deeds to be exposed. Because the closer you get to God, here's the problem. Even if you're unsaved and you're seeking God or something like that, you're seeking that, the closer you get to them, the more the light shines on your life. The closer you get to Jesus, even in your fellowship as a believer, the closer you get to him, the more he reveals not only himself, but he reveals things about you. That's what makes things start getting uncomfortable. That's why churches and pastors want to keep Jesus at a distance and not bring the conviction, because if they bring Jesus too close to them, people start getting their feathers ruffled up because it's too much. You come into the light and he exposes your deeds, and he's trying to do that because he wants to help you. He wants those out of you. But for most people, they can't take it. So what they'll do is follow Jesus at a distance. You remember Peter responded when Jesus did the miracle. I think it was the miraculous draft of fish or whatever. He was walking on water, I believe. And Peter's reaction was, "Get away from me. I am a sinful man." Remember that reaction? Get away from me. Why did he have that reaction? Because he came into the light. He came into the truth, and he had seen a miracle, and it revealed things about himself. How do we know it revealed things? His reaction showed you by being that close to Jesus and that close to the miracle, he's, "Get away from me, I'm a sinful man. Get away, get away." That's initially how it is when you grow closer to Jesus. He reveals more about himself to you through his word, but then he reveals you. And you have to be okay to stand in his light and let him expose what's going on, okay? If you truly want freedom, that's the only way you're going to get out of it. If you want to run and hide and keep in the darkness and keep this closet door shut, Jesus, don't go in there, then it's not going to get worked on. It's not going to get out of you. And you can play that game. That's a lot of Christians play the game. But I'm assuming you want freedom. And if you want freedom, you have to stand in the blazing light of that Shekinah and let him reveal it to you. Now, he's gentle. I will say this. He's very gentle. He doesn't expose everything about you. He does it one at a time. And he's saying, "I want that done." And what your job is when he reveals it, deal with it. Okay? And then what will happen is like peeling an onion. He'll move on to another area, and then he'll move on. And what you start realizing is every time you get an area and you have victory, it's like taking Jericho. It's like taking Ai. It's Joshua moving through the promised land. And victory after victory after victory, and you start getting rest from your victories behind you. But you're always moving ahead. But the key is you have to step into the light, the revelation about him. And here's the thing. You're going to learn things about Jesus as you get closer to him in reading the word and doing deeper dives, and things that you didn't know about him. Things that you thought maybe he allowed, but now he doesn't, or whatever it is. Or maybe he gives you freedom in an area you didn't think you had freedom, or something like that. So what happens is, as you're building your theology and you're studying the Bible and you're becoming a deeper Christian, you're learning more about Jesus, and your position, your Christology will modify to fit what you're learning about him. And the more you learn about him, the more it impacts your walk with him, okay? So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you're still in the darkness and about Jesus, and you just got saved, and you got that light of salvation, but you still haven't developed your Christology very well, not like someone that's lived with Jesus for 30 years. And a lot of people, what ends up happening is their view of Jesus is what they know from their past, what they know from their childhood, what they know from their father. A lot of people, their image of God comes from their father. And they don't know how else to relate to God, any other thing. And truly, you should get a good image of God from your parents. There's no doubt about that. But a lot of people didn't have good parents and had dysfunction and stuff like that. So a lot of times when I'm taking people through their discipleship, they'll say things like, boy, Jesus is very exacting. He's very punishing. He's very, hard on me. And what I'm hearing is, I'm hearing their father. I'm hearing their father. Or they'll have an image of Jesus or even God the Father as, well, he doesn't really care about me. I got my fire insurance, I got saved, but he really doesn't care about my life. He's got other things he's doing. He's busy doing this, running the world. He doesn't really care about me. And I'm like, where did you get that from? Oh, that's right, you had an absentee father. And you have to break through that to show them, no, he's not like your dad. Or he's not like how you grew up in your religion that you grew up in or whatever. I grew up Catholic, so to me, growing up Catholic, Jesus was very distant to me. I saw him on the cross and stuff like that, went through all the rituals, but had no relationship, obviously. And so I viewed God as distant from me, separated from me. And that's, you just went about your life. Yeah, you nodded your head to God, but you really didn't live for him. You didn't know him. And so my picture of God was he was detached, really didn't care about me. So guess what? So the reaction is, if God didn't really care about me, I better care about myself. So you can see how that modifies your behavior. You're going to become super independent. Okay, that's a problem in Christianity when you're super independent of God, right? Okay, so that's what he's saying. So he's mentioning that. So lest his deeds be exposed, but he who does the truth comes to the light, that his deeds may be clearly seen, that they have been done in God. Okay, so that's what he's telling Nicodemus, and he says, there's going to be a problem in reality, Nicodemus, about what I'm saying. A lot of people are not going to come because they don't want this. But those who do come in the light, their deeds will be clearly seen. And then they'll work on them, basically. They'll get past them. They'll see what God will do in them. And they will move, and they will come into the light and be free. That's the idea. Truth equals freedom. The truth will set you free. Revelation means truth. I accept it, and then it sets me free. That's how it works. Now, more Hebraisms. So you got the theme now of light and darkness. I'm not saying creation's not literal. That's a literal 6-day creation, but there's metaphors attached to them, spiritual metaphors. Now we go to the Feast of Tabernacles, okay? It brings another element into the concept of light and darkness. So in Sukkot, that's celebrated every year, a Feast of Tabernacles. As you recall, the Feast of Tabernacles celebrated their time in the wilderness. And so today they will make a little, I don't know what you want to call it, like a fort or something. It's a little tent, so to speak, and you make it, and you put palm branches on it, and you stay out there for 7 days, or you have dinner out there, and whatnot. But when the temple was there, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. And it was a 7-day feast, and it was a feast for the Gentiles, because this feast not only represented their time in the wilderness, but looked forward to the time when all the nations would worship God. And that's why they sacrificed 70 bulls at that period of time to represent the Gentile nation. This is the time when all the nations were actually invited to this feast. Of course, they couldn't go past the court of the Gentiles, but they were invited to this feast. And it looked forward to the Messianic age. It looked forward to the kingdom age. So there's a lot of kingdom motifs in the Feast of Tabernacles. For instance, the pouring out of the water. So each day they would go down to the pool of Siloam, get water, and pour it out on the altar, this water. And it symbolized the future of the pouring out of the Holy Spirit the pouring out of the Spirit on the nation of Israel. And then Joel picks up on that later on, that would happen. And then at one point, Jesus equates himself to this water. If anyone's thirsty, let him drink, let him come and drink. So he capitalizes on this. Okay, so the other aspect of the Feast of Sukkot, they would have at night these massive, massive lanterns flaming all through the tabernacle outside. And if you were on the Mount of Olives, you could see down in it, and it was lit up, man, like a huge candle or whatever. And, here's a kind of a replica of the idea. And you had all these people there, and they were lighting these huge candles. There were 4 of them. And it symbolized the light of God, okay? That one day the light of God would live among them, that the Shekinah would be there. Now, remember, the Shekinah left, but one day the Shekinah would return. And we know that the Shekinah would return with the Messiah in the kingdom. And so there's all these kingdom things going on there. And also they waved palm branches. That was a highlight of the feast. And today they will have palm branches in their Sukkot. But palm branches, Feast of Tabernacles. I'm coming back to the palm branches in just a bit. Hold on. So here's what happens. So Jesus is invited by his brothers come up to the Feast of Tabernacles. He says, no, I'm not going to go. But then he goes. And then he gets into a sparring match with the Pharisees and religious leaders when he's there. And it's a throwdown. And he's ripping them to shreds theologically. So he does that. And so it says early in the morning. Notice that says in verse 2, early in the morning, that's when the lights were extinguished. Okay, and this is the time of tabernacles. Okay, so the lights are just going out. It's dawn now. So early in the morning, he came into the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. So he starts teaching very, very early in the morning, really early. Okay, and what does he teach them? Well, the lights from Sukkot had just went out. It's day now. Dawn is coming up. And the first thing that he teaches them, then Jesus spoke to them again saying, I am the light of the world. Oh, he who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. So he's equating himself now back to Genesis. He's equating himself to Sukkot. That he's the light the candelabras represented. The 4 big giant candles, that light that looked forward to the Shekinah, I am that light. I'm the light that shone upon the watery mass in Genesis. I'm that light. I'm the same one. And he who follows me shall not walk in the darkness. Going back to Genesis, not a day versus night, darkness versus light, right? But have the light of life. So now he adds this, that this revelation that comes from the Messiah, that gives the truth, also gives life. So he adds another aspect to the metaphor. It gives life too. So if you believe the truth, you have life. Oh, okay, so I am the way, the truth, and the life. Yeah, that's right. The Shekinah of the Messiah does all this. And he's saying, I'm it. I'm the light of the world. I'm the light that came upon the world when the world was just first getting created. I'm that same guy. I'm the same one. Now, let's go back to the palm branches, just as an incidental. So palm branches were waved at the Feast of Tabernacles. So why is it on Palm Sunday, in the entry of Messiah coming in Jerusalem, are they starting to wave palm branches? Because it's Passover. They call it the triumphal entry, but what's happening is they're misplacing a feast. The crowd is cheering him on as Messiah, yeah? They're saying the Messianic greeting. That's what they were supposed to say. Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. That's the messianic greeting they have to give. The rabbis all taught that. They have to give the messianic greeting. And they were giving that. The crowd was giving that. And they were hailing them as the king, okay? All right. But then they start putting down the palm branches. Well, palm branches are not associated to Passover. They're only associated to tabernacles. So guess what the crowd is wanting? Here's the king. He's going to usher in the kingdom. We're jumping to the Feast of Tabernacles right now. But the problem is you can't jump the feasts. The spring feast must come before the fall feasts. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have to come before Tabernacles. Tabernacles is the last feast. So they were wanting to jump, but the problem is Messiah had to suffer and die. He had to be the Passover lamb. So the crowd has the right idea, but they're in the wrong timing, if that makes sense. But that's why they're holding palm branches, because palm branches were associated to Feast of Tabernacles. Now, why palms? You ever notice why the biblical motif of palms is a big deal? There's a lot of trees that are noted, but why palms on tabernacles? If I'm in the kingdom and all darkness has been removed, all evil, sin, all that, those types of things. If I'm there, what would I be doing? I'd be worshiping, free to worship, okay? So the palm branches represent worship. Even in heaven, they're waving palm branches in heaven, in New Jerusalem. Because why does the palm branch represent worship? Why does the palm branch represent us worshiping God? It's the fawns. If you notice, the spine of the palm branch is the human spine, and then the arms of the palm, their hands are up. So it's a beautiful picture in the palm of human worship of God. And that's why the palms are associated to tabernacles. So it's a picture of a human worship. It's a picture of our spine. You can see our spine and then our hands going up like that. Okay, that's incidental. Anyway, that's Sukkot. They make the booths and tabernacles. You can see that. Okay, now we go to another issue. Notice how this theme just keeps going on and going deeper. So he's in Jerusalem. This is after he said he's the light of the world. Okay? So if you watch this in John's gospel, the next event that happens after he says, I'm the light of the world, is the healing of the man born blind. Totally makes sense, right? Thematically, if he says he's the light of the world, now he's going to bring light to a blind man. Now, as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. Now, this is congenital blindness. And so the man is in physical darkness. He's been in physical darkness. He's never seen the light, ever, okay? But what's the deal with congenital blindness? Well, it's this. The rabbis said that when Messiah comes, he will be able to heal people born blind. They made it very specific that he wouldn't, it's just not about healing someone that got blind and then he gave sight. It's someone born blind that when Messiah comes, he'll be able to give a congenital person sight. That's the idea. So it's a greater miracle. So they all said this. If you see a man healing congenital blindness, that's the Messiah. So everybody knew this. Okay? So he does that right in front of them. So the man, metaphorically, yes, he's physically blind, but spiritually, metaphorically, he's in darkness, right? He's in physical darkness. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sin, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. So it's the Pharisaical understanding that if you had some type of physical defect, it's because your parents did something or you did something or whatever. And so it was all messed up. They're like Job's friends. They had a weird thing. So he corrects that. He corrects that, obviously, and that's not why some people are born a certain way. That's crazy talk. It's nonsense. But he corrects that. But he says this, that the works of God should be revealed in him. So I'm going to use this man to do something, to show a point, to prove a point. So he says, I must work the works of him who sent me. Notice the word sent. I was sent by the Father. It's a big deal. While it is day, the night is coming when no one can work. Okay? As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So, what is this? It's cryptic, right? I must work the works of the one who sent me. That's the works of the Father. He's going to do the works of redemption, right? To make everything prepared, okay, for salvation for everybody. But what is this night is coming when no one works? So he's introducing another concept. Again, it's the same concept you've learned from Genesis. It's the same concept you've learned from the Old Testament and the New Testament. So what you have to think is this. Messiah now comes. He's on the planet. So what do we have? We have the Shekinah veiled in him. In the transformation, everyone saw his, the disciples, or the 3 disciples saw his Shekinah, and they talked about it. We saw his glory. We beheld his glory. But then it was veiled under the flesh, the humanity of him. But it is the Messiah. And so he brings the light with him. So he is the light. As long as he's on the planet, he's the light of the world. So what ended up happening? He went back to heaven. And when he went back to heaven, that's what he's referring to, where night is coming where no one can work. Because the next time he comes, obviously the rapture, but he doesn't come back to establish the kingdom. It's the second coming that he comes back and establishes the kingdom and his Shekinah glory with him and establishes his presence there. So that's when the light of the world is back. But as he's gone, we're in the period of time called night, darkness. The Messiah is away right now. But guess what? I will send the helper, okay, so he'll help you. You won't be abandoned. I'm not leaving you. And then he gives, because of the helper and because of all the gifting that we have, then what does he say? You are the light of the world in my absence. As I am gone, he says, you are the light of the world. That's what he's referring to. So you're going to be in my stead while I'm gone. So he calls us, you are the light of the world. Don't put your light under a bushel. Remember he said that? Let your light shine before men. Okay. So we, as the body of Christ, manifest that light, which is truth, which is revelation, which is life. It's not that we give it, we're not giving it, but we're the ambassadors for it. Why he's absent, why he's gone, but he's coming back. And so right there you have this concept of our duty, why the king's away. That's our duty. Okay. So anyway, as long as I'm in the world, I'm the light of the world. When he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with saliva. And he anointed the eyes of the blind man, which is the one in darkness, with clay. That's weird. Spat on the ground, made clay. Okay, a couple things. There's depths here, and there's layers. So first of all, let's deal with the confrontation with the Pharisaical law. Okay, so he's doing that constantly. Messiah will never break God's law. The 613 commands, Messiah never breaks the law. He will intentionally break Pharisaical laws, man-made laws, on purpose. And this one, he's breaking Pharisaical laws on purpose. First of all, according to the rabbis, you can't make anything on Sabbath. Well, by spitting and having clay, he's making something. So he's breaking their law. Now, God never said that, the rabbis did, though. So he's breaking their law. Furthermore, the rabbis also said that you couldn't put saliva in the eye of the individual, either in it or on it, on Sabbath. Why? Why would they even have a law like that? Because they thought there was healing properties in saliva, especially the saliva of a firstborn. So they thought there was healing properties in it, and so they had a whole law about not putting saliva on the eye or in the eye on Sabbath. So guess what Jesus does? Puts it right on him. Right? because he is totally rebuking Pharisaical law at that time in their face, and they see it right in front of him. He's making something, and he's using his own spit, which is 2 violations right off the bat. Okay, so that's one layer. You have to see that. The second layer is he's doing other things. He is a firstborn. There is, because he is God's firstborn, he does have supernatural qualities in his saliva. No doubt about that. He's also the creator. He is picking up the clay, reminiscence of making Adam, using the spittle of the firstborn, and as creator, creating new eyes or whatever he's doing. He's creating something because the guy has congenital blindness. So he's creating something new in the man because he's showing that I'm not only the Messiah, I'm the creator. Okay, I'm the creator too. So you have that level going on as well. So here's where he sends them. So he's going to send them to the pool of Siloam. Okay, so this is the markup. You can go to Jerusalem and you see this model in Jerusalem at the museum there in Jerusalem. And it's a good depiction. You got there's the temple you can see in the foreground, and then in the foreground that's Zion, Mount Zion, or we call it the city of David. And then at the end of it is Pool of Siloam, which, by the way, they have found the Pool of Siloam now. It's not where they thought it was. It's a different place. And I can't remember if the Greek Orthodox or somebody had control of the site. They were given the site to the archaeologists there. And guess what they found? They not only found the Pool of Siloam, but they found that it had pillars on each side, 2 giant pillars. Now, here's the interesting thing. One of those pillars they found has already fallen and did fall. Now, why is that important? Because there was an incident in Jerusalem where a tower fell, and I think it killed 18 people. And they're thinking that that's the tower that was referred to in the Gospels. When the disciples came, Lord, these 17, 18 people, I can't remember the number, were killed by the falling of this tower. What did they do to deserve that? And then he came back on them and said, you better repent too, or something else like that will happen to you. But now we have the archaeological evidence now about the Pool of Siloam that one of those towers had fallen. And that was probably the reference of killing the people there in Jerusalem. So anyway, Pool of Siloam, interesting. He said, go into the Pool of Siloam, which is translated sent. The Pool of Sent. Well, that's related to him. He was sent. He just said it in the text. I was sent into the world. So the pool's name is Sent. So it's a picture of Jesus, obviously. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Oh, so this is interesting. There's a stage in the miracle here. It requires faith because he had to walk down from where he was at by the temple, walk all the way down as a blind man to the Pool of Siloam, which is kind of dangerous a little bit as a blind man, okay? And what's happening now is his policy has changed as far as doing miracles in front of Israel. He will now require faith. That if you want this, you have to do this. I need to see faith. And the faith is walking down and doing what you're told to do. And so that's what happens. So it's a stage thing. So the man, he doesn't see when the mud and the spittle are put on his eyes. He only sees when the water washes off his eyes in the Pool of Siloam. When he obeys. When he obeys, that's only when he can see. But that's the first stage. Because he hasn't seen Jesus. He doesn't even know what he looks like, right? He can't identify him at all. And so there's a second stage in this. And there's a confirmation in it. So this is interesting. So Jesus heard that he had cast him out. And when he had found him, he said to him, Jesus found him, okay? Do you believe in the Son of God? Okay? In Hebrew, that means equivalency with God. It doesn't mean lesser, it means equivalency. He answered and said, who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him? And Jesus said to him, you have both seen him, and it is he who is talking to you. Then he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. Okay? So what happened here is a two-stage aspect. Do what I tell you to do, and then we're going to talk about this because I want you to see me. I want you to know who I am and who it was that healed you. I don't want you to think it's just some random guy out here. I want you to know that it was the Son of Man, the Messiah, that actually healed you. And then obviously he does, and then he believes, okay? So there's where the deal is sealed. Okay. The point is, the man has passed from spiritual darkness and blindness to spiritual sight because he sees Jesus. He believes, right? So he's going from blindness to light, darkness to light. You can see the theme, right? Physical to physical sight. Same thing, okay? So this is what can happen in this reality. If you want it, if you want to believe in the Son of Man, that's what happens. You pass from darkness to light. So here's what happens. He then says, for judgment has come into this world that those who do not see may see. So basically those in spiritual darkness are given the ability to see through by the faith in the Messiah. Okay. And that those who see may be made blind. Okay. And who are those he's talking to? The Pharisees. They claim they see. What are they claiming they see? They claim that they're saved, that they're righteous, right? I mean, according to the rabbis, and you can read this in their own works, if they were a son of Abraham, Abraham didn't even allow them go into Sheol or to Hades. He would grab them before they went into hell and protect them and take them to Abraham's bosom. So no Jew ever was lost in the rabbi's mind. That if you were born a child of Abraham and you kept the law, that's it. That's what sealed the deal. It's a works-based righteousness and a nationality thing as well. And so Jesus is saying, you think you guys see, you think you're saved, you think you're righteous. You're not. In fact, what I'm telling you is you're blind, okay? And then some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, are we blind also? That's a rhetoric. Yeah, you are. Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. Right? But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remains. The fact that you decide to stay in darkness, you are intentionally blinding yourself. You could come into the light by faith in me, but you refuse to do it, so you're going to stay in your darkness. And the fact that you say you see, you will remain in your blindness, spiritual blindness. So you get the metaphor all through that, okay? They're going to stay in blindness. Now, we move to heaven. But now I saw no temple in it, for the Lord Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city had no need of the sun or the moon to shine in it. Reminds me of Isaiah. For the glory of God illuminated. The Lamb is its light. And the nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light, and the kings of the earth shall bring glory and honor into it. Its gates shall not be shut at all by day. There should be no night there. There it is. There's where it ends. That's where we're going. That's the destiny, where there's no night, there's no darkness. And again, now we go to personal application. So you got the theme down. This is 1 John chapter 1. This is the message which you have heard from him and declare to you, that God is light, metaphorically speaking, okay? And in him is no darkness at all. There's no taint in God. He's pure, he's holy, he's righteous, right? If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. So notice what is using the term fellowship, not salvation, it's using the word fellowship. Fellowship has to do with a believer. It's talking about a believer's fellowship. And John is trying to say, look, if you claim that you have no sin as a believer and you're not sinning, and you're gonna say God approves of what you're doing. Well, I'm telling you right now, there's no darkness in him. What you're doing is darkness. And there's no darkness in him. So don't claim you have fellowship with God when you're living in darkness, is what he's trying to say. You're walking in darkness. What is walking in darkness? Doing the deeds that he prohibits. Doing the things that are not in the light, right? So you're not practicing the truth has to do with living it out. Okay? But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, And the blood of Jesus Christ, his son, cleanses us from all sins. If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. So that's the idea, that and then he moves into confession. If you confess your sin, he's faithful and just to forgive you of your sins. But there's the personal application in all of this. I have a choice in my life, even as a believer, to walk in darkness or walk in the light. And that's your choice. If you walk in darkness, I can tell you what's over there. Chaos, disorder, everything's out of control, and you're blinded to what's happening. The devil will blind you, all that stuff. Okay, but here's what happens. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. So he's saying, woe to those who confuse the categories. Woe to those who do the opposite. Woe to those, oive, or in the Hebrew, is a sign of judgment. An impending judgment is coming to you if you do this. And we obviously know that. You're removing the dividing line. You can't substitute one for another. They're not interchangeable. God doesn't allow that. And then he says, so you were once in darkness, but you're now in the light. And you don't wrestle against flesh and blood, or against powers, principalities, against powers and rules of darkness of this age. So when you do the acts of darkness, you're on the other team. You're on the other side. You're doing those things. Everything clear as mud, right? Okay? Okay.